Welcome to Enlightened Game with Slim Sir, as he takes the lessons he learned from the streets, commonly known as the game, and applies them to everyday life, helping everyday people win the game of life, focusing on relationships, money, and the winner's lifestyle. This podcast will turn any chump into a champ. So if you're ready, let the game begin. And now, your host, the most valuable player himself, Slim Sir.
Welcome. I am Slim Sir, and this is Enlightened Game. This is my audio notebook. This is a time where I just download information from my brain to yours. Some life experience, man. And I call it Enlightened Game because, it really will elevate you and elevate your perspective of the game. And if you've read How to Pimp Life and Karma, you understand how important a pimp's perception is. You see, physical life begins at conception. Mental life begins with perception. So how does a pimp see himself? How does a pimp see other people? How does a pimp see situations? How does a pimp see money? These are things you have to know. See, and the reason why how you see yourself is so important is because in the game you understand and you learn this lesson, if you learn real game, that you have to be and do in order to have. So if you want to have the life that you imagine in your mind, you have to do something for it. And before you can do something, you have to become that person that is capable of doing what needs to be done so you can have what you desire to have. But before you can actually become that person, you have to see that person in your mind. And that's why a pimp's perception is so important, because that is the starting place for reality. It begins in your mind as your perception. It begins with your perception. So how does a pimp see himself? First, in order for you to understand how a pimp sees himself, you have to understand what the term pimp means. See, I want you to use your imagination right now. I don't want you to close your eyes and think about this. You're a pimp and you got two females. You're sending them out to go get some money, right? They say you're pimping on them, right? Okay, well, what are you doing? You want the best and the most from those females, yes or no, right? That's the truth. You want the best and the most from them. Now, I want you to take that principle and apply it to the two bitches that you have called life, because life is a bitch, and karma, because karma is a bitch. And I want you to apply the pimping to those two. I want you to get the best and the most out of life. I want you to get the best and the most results, okay? That's what the pimping is. But how does a pimp see himself? A pimp sees himself as the best. A pimp sees himself as the best. Why? Because he's willing to do the most. Think about that. Pimping is to get the best and the most out of something, right? Well, when you apply that to perception, how should you see yourself? You should see yourself as the best. You should be willing to do the most in order to become the best. The opposite of pimping is some lame shit or some simp shit or some trick shit. See, those are the kind of people who see themselves as the worst, and they are willing to do the least, but they expect the most. You see what I'm saying? Pimping ain't like that. Pimping sees himself as the best. No matter what you're doing, see yourself as the best. It's more beneficial to see yourself as the best than it is to see yourself as the worst. I mean, which one do you think is more beneficial? Right? Far too many times we walk around, and we say that we the best, whatever. But do you really believe that? Do you really believe that? If you looked at yourself mentally right now, how do you see yourself? What do you see when you look at yourself? Do you see the best? Do you see somebody who's willing to put in the most work? Do you see someone who's willing to put in the most of the best work? Or do you see somebody who is lazy, doing the worst work and doing the least of it and expecting the most? See, now is your first choice in the game. Which one are you going to be? What is your perception going to be? Is it going to be the best and the most, or is it going to be the worst and the least? That's your first choice. Choose up. Make a decision that's going to advance you. The only decision in this situation that's going to advance you is to see yourself as the best and be willing to do the most. What do I mean by be willing to do the most? You got to get up and you got to work, brother. Nothing works unless you work. You know what I'm saying? You got to plan to work and work the plan, man. That's how it works. You understand? We see the wrong people have been teaching us what pimping is. They think they would make you believe that pimping just sit back and gives everyone orders. Pimping puts in work. What kind of work does he put in? He puts the best work in, and he puts the most of it in. He is the leader. He leads by example. This is how you should see yourself. If you see yourself as anything other than the best, you're doing yourself a disservice. You have become your own worst enemy if you can't see yourself as the best version of yourself right now. You know what I'm saying? I don't care where you've been. I don't care what kind of trouble you've been. I don't care what kind of problems that you have. Right now, determine and commit to yourself in your mind that you're going to see yourself as your best, the best person that you can be right now, right? And how do you become the best at what you do? How do you see yourself in the best light? You got to be willing to put in the most work. It takes work to think of yourself as the best. You have been in the habit of looking at yourself as the worst and doing the least amount of mental effort to change your own perception. It takes work to change your perception from being a lame, which means lying and making excuses. See, that's what a lame is. When you lie and make excuses for yourself and to yourself, you're a motherfucking lame. That's what you are. But that's not what the pimping is. The pimping wants the best and the most out of himself. He sees the best. He sees himself as the best and is willing to put the most work in. And he sees the best in other people. And he requires the most from other people. He sees the best in situations and requires that he gets the most out of situations. This is what the pimping is. This is what the pimping is. See, when you see other people, you see the best in them. A lame doesn't see the best in them. See, a lame sees the opposite. He's always pointing out some negative. See, whenever you hear somebody always talking and pointing out a negative, they're a lame. That's what they are. They're a fucking lame. That's what they are. Whenever you start pointing out just negatives in people, in yourself, in other people, and in circumstances, you are behaving like a fucking lame. And I'm teaching you better than that. You should see yourself, see other people, and see circumstances. See the best in them. You know what I'm saying? You got a choice. You can look at it as the best. You can look at it from the best perspective or from the worst perspective. Which one is more beneficial to you? You know what I'm saying? Which one is going to make you feel better? Which one is going to help you to advance down the road of your life? Which one is going to help you to be more prosperous and make more money? How can you make money if you see yourself as the worst and the least? Where will your self-image and your self-esteem, your self-confidence come from if you're looking at yourself as the worst and the least? Now, see, when you think of some pimping, you automatically think of this person who believes in himself. He sees the best in himself. You see what I'm saying? He's very, very confident. Let me tell you something. If you don't see the best in yourself, I almost guarantee you that nobody else will either. And if the whole world of people don't see the best in you, God damn it, at least let there be one person who sees the best in you, and let that person be you. They always say in the game, if you get one person to believe in you, you can do anything you put your mind to. You know who that one person is? That one person is you, man. That one person is you. See the best in yourself, man. And don't do no lame shit by pointing out the negative in yourself and in other people and in your life. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that lame shit. That's what lames do. They waste their time pointing at the negatives. Some pimping invests his time in looking for the positives and finding the positives, man. You understand? Time is money. Don't waste your time in the negative, man. All right? And if we looked at side by side, the pimping versus the lame, the stronger perspective is the pimping. To see the best and the most from yourself. People would love to be around you if you saw the best and the most in them, and you required the most from them, right? And you saw the best in them. They would love to be around you. You know what I'm saying? And in tough situations, who would they want to be around? Someone who saw the best in a situation, right? And who wasn't always pointing out the negatives in a situation. Haven't you got enough of that? Aren't you tired? Have you ever been around somebody who was like that? You didn't want to be around them for too long, right? Because they're so damn negative, man. Now think about it in the reverse. Somebody who's always positive, man, and inspiring and motivating, man. You should be that person in your life. You know, a lot of times we're looking for mentors and looking for people to motivate us. You need to be the person that motivates your damn self by seeing the best in yourself. When you imagine yourself, when you look at yourself mentally in your mental mirror, I want you to see the best. I want you to see some pimping, right? I want you to see the best man that you can be. And that's what the pimping is. That's where the pimping starts. By seeing yourself as the best and be willing to put in the most mental work to keep reminding yourself that you are the best. That takes work. Because our brains have been programmed to think of ourselves as the worst and the least. It takes energy. It takes effort. You're going to have to fight. You're going to have to grind to keep that positive perspective of yourself. That positive pimping perception of yourself. The best and the most perception of yourself. You're going to have to grind for that. You're going to have to struggle against that. They say in science that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when you think to the best and the most of yourself, the equal and opposite reaction is a thought that's going to try to convince you that you are the worst and the least. That's natural. Now you have to struggle against that, see? And that's where the work comes in. That's where the most work comes in, right? You're going to do the best, right? You're going to think of yourself as the best and think of others and think in every situation that you're going to find the positive in every situation, right? You have to make a commitment for that. And you have to know that as soon as you make that commitment, you're going to be faced with opposition. Now, how sincere was your commitment to think of yourself as the best and the most? You see, if your faith was small in yourself, you're going to break and go back to that old way of thinking that you are the worst and the least. But if you believe in the pimping, believe in the pimping, believe that you are the best and the most, there's nothing or no one, no force of nature that could convince you otherwise, because you know who you are. Anyway, if you listen to this game and you think that it's been good for you and you think it's good for other people, please share this podcast with others, and also go to slimsir.com and download your copy of How to Pimp Life and Karma. I want to thank you for your time and your attention. I am your brother in the game. Peace.